Welcome to Last in Line podcast, where we are highlighting, showcasing, and spotlighting great leaders of faith who have overcome adversity, cultivated resilience, and served others in a significant capacity. So settle in and be encouraged by this episode of Last in Line podcast. Okay, so in honor of football season, we're about a month in now. I feel compelled as an avid football loyalist to have a theme around the structure of X's and O's, game plans, football theme. Okay. But it's going to be called Game Plan of Champions, 3 key elements to having a winning season. And a winning season of life for you, winning life in general, winning season with your relationships with your family, winning season at work. There's seasons to everything, right? Ecclesiastes talks about there's a time, there's a season. So we all are embarked upon or will of a different season in life. We're going to be in the season we're in, then we're going to adjust, and we're going to be in a different season. And time is going to pass, and we're going to try new things, and it's going to open doors to a new season. So anyway, you got the season thing. Here we go. Game plan. I would like to just start off by saying, if you didn't know that I wrote a new book and released it a few weeks back, need to go get it. It's in my link on the profile in my Instagram. It's on the link in the show notes of this episode and many episodes to come. It is essential in your spiritual walk. And I would say it is not only a simple resource, but it's going to be super practical. It might even surprise you how useful it is in equipping you to fight a spiritual battle. So it's called Operation 333. Go listen to either Jeff Forrester's podcast or coming soon, John Gardina's podcast, his classroom, John Gardina Classroom podcast. They were nice enough to interview me, but we go into depth on this book. And Jeff Forrester's episode, it was, I think, a couple weeks ago. But yeah, Operation 333, the little black book on strategic spiritual warfare. Get a copy, get a couple copies. It's cheap, $14. I don't know where you can get artillery and weaponry like this in the natural for sure for $14, but to get something in the supernatural that has eternal implications for you and your heritage, your lineage, I would say is a steal. So go buy a copy, spread it, share it, talk about it, and let me know what you think. All right. So yeah, football season, and big college football guy. We watch NFL just to have it on in the background as we have family time on Sunday. I'm not super into it. My kids are into fantasy football, 2 of my boys. And so we kind of have to listen to some of that and go through some of that, but it's fine. It's good family time. But we're Saints fans in the NFL, which isn't always a privilege or a pleasure to be a Saints fan sometimes, but we live through thick and thin with them. We love them. And then college football, we're Oklahoma people at heart. We grew up there. My kids, I mean, 2 of them were born there. So they kind of remember it, but we are OU fans, the University of Oklahoma. Boomer Sooner, if you're listening, and I doubt I have any Sooner fans listening other than my family. So, but we're very college football oriented. It's good bonding time too. If you're not a football fan, you should give it a shot. It's just good time to sit around and watch guys crack each other in the skull with their own skull. And I will tell you, there are so many parallels in life. Ask any football coach, like so many life lessons are learned on a football field, on a sporting field or court of any kind, really. There's so many life lessons. I don't have to tell you that. To teach your kids competition and competitiveness is essential. It is one of those X factors in life that not a lot of people in the business world have, especially now in our woke, weak, flabby culture. If you have a kid that's at all competitive and resilient and has a good work ethic and is honest and full of integrity, that kid will soar to new heights. That your kid will absolutely dominate the competition in the workforce. And just splattered iced coffee all over the place. That's fun. Hope you're not watching that. But that's what I'll tell you is your kids, if you can teach them that kind of get them on a sporting court or field, they will absolutely benefit in life. And so many parallels. But today we're going to talk a lot about 3 key elements of a winning season for your life, for my life. Some of these, I will say, came to me today while I was listening to my Oklahoma radio station, that I sometimes get a little homesick for Oklahoma. I live in South Texas in a suburb of Houston. I love it down here. It's great. The people are awesome. But always have that soft spot in my heart for Oklahoma football and for just Oklahoma in general. And so I was listening to the radio station. We're talking about different things, and they had the coach's press conference yesterday, and he mentioned some key terms. And so I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to not really steal it because they aren't proprietary words, but I'm going to steal the theme. And so that's what we're doing today. I'm going to give you 3 key elements, and they're all going to be S words, okay? The last one was a reach, but bear with me. So the first one we're going to talk about is system, okay? The system that a football team, the system of that team, like that particular system is what really is the foundation of how they build strategy and scheme and personnel and tactics around execution and competition, and ultimately prevailing over the competition, right? The opponent. And so first, though, you got to have a good system in place. And every time a new coach comes into a program, they bring in their system, right? They pretty much liquidate the coaching staff. Just look at Deion Sanders. He pretty much got rid of everybody, including probably 80% of the players, the roster at Colorado. And he's doing really well. Say what you will about Deion, but got to love a guy that refers to himself in third person. But no, I'm somewhat of a fan of Deion. I'm rooting for him. But when a new coach comes in, he brings his system. He recreates the system. And whatever system that program had before most likely is going in the trash, because they wouldn't have needed to hire a new coach if that system was working. So I don't know what that's for, unless somebody listening needs to trash the current system that you have in your life and what you stand on and what sort of culture you've built in your family, in yourself, within your character. If that's been an uphill battle for you and you felt a lot of resistance and friction in your spirit, in your life, in relationships, just in some of the outcomes you've produced, maybe you want to think about a new system, revamp the system, get some input. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But so the system is the first thing. That's a key element. That's where you got to start. Okay. You can't start on X's and O's. You got to start on the system. If the system's flawed, you got to revamp it or trash it completely. And so the system that I have for you tonight is going to be culture, fortitude, and standards. Okay. So you got to have the culture. You got to build the culture. And the culture is really going to be what values and principles you've developed and you've established in your family. Let's just go with family, because you can't really, unless you're the owner of a company, can't really go in and just tell everybody this is our new culture. Can't really just reinvent the wheel when it comes to standards and values of the company. It's not your company, but you can over time establish yourself to have standards that people look at and say that's effective, that maybe we want to adopt some of that philosophy. Maybe we should get his take on some of the company culture. But you do that through action. You do that through integrity. You do that through honest, hard work and serving others with a heart for a passion for what you're doing. So the culture in your family, let's just go there, because that's really your ultimate immediate sphere of influence that you can control. You've got to set that. And if you sort of have, but not really, you need to look at it, write it down, get input from your family, find out what they think the family stands for. Like I said before, I don't know, might have been earlier this year, we did an episode called The Family Standard, and I've got 10 or 11 things that I think we stand on as a family that I've put on paper. I'm still in process of trying to get that on like a big, huge, like canvas, or tapestry of some kind. But you know, it's along the lines of we learn consistently, we love unconditionally, we serve selflessly, we give sacrificially, we forgive mercifully, we encourage humbly, we lead courageously, we steward faithfully, we battle resiliently, we pray confidently, we speak truthfully, We stand fearlessly. So those are things I came up with. I developed. People have similar standards for their family, but that's your culture. That's the system. But you've got to exemplify. You've got to walk it out. You can't just preach it out. And so your family knows if you're a fraud. Your family knows if you're just talking about it and you're not being about it. So I encourage you, be consistent. Actions with words. Have those. It's imperative those align as the leader of your home. The fortitude portion, you've got to develop a system of resilience, perseverance, just having sort of a gut check built in, baked into the mentality and mindset of the family. A football team has got to have some intestinal fortitude. They've got to have some resilience. There's going to be adversity. There's going to be setbacks. No football team experiences a game where they do 100% of the things 100% right 100% of the time. Now, obviously, there are times teams do really well and there's very little to critique. But I will say, you've got to have the fortitude to resist opposition, to resist adversity and overcome setbacks. And that's, your family's going to watch you. You're going to direct that. You're going to lead that. They're going to watch to see, what's dad going to do? How's he going to react? What's he going to say? What are the next steps? Because he wasn't planning for this. So what are we going to do next? So that's a fortitude under system. So these are systems you're putting in place. It's the foundation. And then standards, right? Culture, fortitude, standards. That's number one. That's system. Again, football theme, fired up, love college football. There's some good games coming up this week. Couple of weeks, we got the big Red River Showdown, which my Sooners take on the Longhorns. And you can imagine, being in Texas and being an Oklahoma fan, that comes with its own set of challenges. So leave it at that. Anyway, if you're not a football fan, bear with me, and what's wrong with you? So the second one is scheme. So if we're on the football theme, you guys who know football know this. The system has schemes. There's schematics involved with each phase of the game. You got offense, you got defense, you got special teams. 3 phases for those of you that don't know. A lot of my listeners do know football, so bless your heart. But scheme, right? And in the world sense, the worldly sense, the non-football sense, people hear, oh, he's got a scheme. Scheme's got a dirty kind of connotation. It's a dirty word a little bit because it implies manipulation or shadiness, sketchiness, dishonesty. A scheme is like deriving this secret plan to overtake something or control something or exert power over something. In a way, that's what we're doing here in football, but it's not shady. It's part of the game. So schematics are important. So you're drawing up the X's and O's, right? You've got offense, defense, special teams. You're devising this plan on how to deploy the resources, which are your players. So in your family, in your life, within yourself, you're building the schematics of how you can actually execute and create strategies, tactics, contingency plans, right? So in the game of spiritual warfare, on the theme of the book I just released, like there's plenty of X's and O's with that. Like we've got to be out in front. The offense doesn't just snap the ball and then see where the players on defense run before they decide what play they're going to run. So it's not like they're saying, okay, they're all coming at me, so I think I'm just going to throw the ball in the air and hope we come down with it. They have a plan before. In fact, a lot of offenses have 6 plays just figured out beforehand, because if they go no huddle offense, let's just say, and I'm talking way over some of your heads, but if the guy gets tackled and they all jump to the line of scrimmage, they don't go to huddle up, right? Please tell me you know what a huddle is. Those of you that don't, just bear with me. Just look it up, for crying out loud. But I know you do. So they go straight to the line. They don't huddle up. So that's a no huddle offense. So they got like 4 or 5 plays drawn up, and everybody knows, look, we're going in this sequence. So don't even come back here and let's talk about it. We're going right to the line and getting going to catch them off guard. You've got to know ahead of time 1 or 2 or 3 things you're going to do if the enemy comes at you. First of all, you got to get in the word. You got to get it in you for the day, every day, not just once a week, not on Monday and hope it lasts you till Friday. Are you eating on Monday morning and then not again? till Saturday. That doesn't last. It doesn't sustain you. Neither does the word one time a week. So that's one thing. You got to get out in front of it. That's a scheme. That's your X's and O's. That's your blocking and tackling. These are basics. Okay. Word, prayer. So devotional. I'll just put it under the umbrella of devotional time. So you got to get that every single day. But that's putting on the armor. That's suiting up. That's buckling up your chin strap, lacing up your cleats tight, because you know you're going to hit something hard. And you know you're going to be sprinting toward the opposition. Okay. And so the opposition's coming at you, whether you like it or not, whether you devise a plan or not, whether your scheme is right or not. He's coming at you, just like the defense is coming at the offense, whether they're ready or not. So we got to be ready. We got to figure this thing out. And we got to get people around us equipped. Okay. You've got to be the leader of the family. You are, whether you accept it or not, you are man of the house, leader of the family, spiritual leader for sure. You have got to teach people by example. You've got to teach people by giving resources, sharing devotionals, praying together as a family. You've got to get each other encouraged and built up in the Lord. And you got to have contingencies. So a strategy would be to have a plan B when you're out in the middle of the universe, corporate America, let's say, and your coworker cheats you out of a sale. You've got to be ready to pivot. You've got to be having a contingency, which, okay, my contingency is, okay, I stand on truth. I know that the enemy does not prevail. I know the word says that no harm will come near my tent. No plague will befall me. My enemies will not win. Summarize, that's paraphrasing, but there's plenty of scripture that say I will be victorious. If I stay true to my principles and I seek the Lord, all things will be added to me. So that's a contingency. I know that I can pivot if somebody does me wrong. I know I can pivot if all hell busts loose and it's a dumpster fire in my job, in my marriage, with my kids. I know I've got contingencies drawn up because I've been in the word. I know what he says about it. I know what he says about me. I can quote and claim promises. Okay. So it's all about truth, and it's all about kicking the lies to the curb. That's the scheme. That's your scheme, your schematics. You've drawn up these plays ahead of time because you know there's going to be setbacks. You know there's going to be a plan B needed, contingencies. You know there's going to be opposition. And even if there's not, at least you're ready. Guys that carry a sidearm in public, concealed carry, they don't leave the house thinking they're going to shoot somebody, but they definitely leave the house with a full magazine, right? They're not going to be caught off guard. Neither are you. You're going to have this artillery of the word, of prayer, spiritual strength, and you're going to have this heart and this mindset of, I'm ready for anything. I'm not looking for trouble, but I'm ready for it. So that's where your scheme has got to land. You've got to land in that safe place schematically of, I'm doing the work on the front end. I've got plays drawn up. I've got plays for all kinds of looks from the defense. If I walk to the line of scrimmage and I got a play drawn up and I see something I don't like, I can audible. Quarterback all the time. You see the quarterback screaming at the line. He's audible. He's making a change because he doesn't like what he sees on the other side of the ball. So they've got a contingency. You've got to be just as prepared. So that's the second one. Game plan tonight of champions. Okay. It's the game plan of champions, 3 key elements of a winning season. So that's 2. First one was system. Second one was scheme. The third one, I told you it was going to be a reach, but I got to stick with the S theme. Stride. This is your stride. Catch your stride. Okay. Your cadence, your step, your stride, your rhythm. Okay. You're going to stride. Your stride is all about how you execute. I was going to put execution, but that doesn't start with S, right? Sexecution would have sounded a little creepy. So we weren't going to go that route either. That was pretty good. I hope you're laughing at that a little bit. That's for you, Forrester, if you're listening. Anyway, stride, okay, is all about execution. If you've done the work on the front end with the first 2, the system's solid, the scheme is solid, your stride is going to be in sync, in the right cadence, with the right rhythm, moving forward. You're not going to be stutter stepping. You're not going to be skipping or stumbling or tripping or moving laterally. Now, yeah, you might have to move laterally to, move around some landmines occasionally, figuratively speaking. But for the most part, you're getting momentum. Your stride is catching traction and you're moving forward. And that's really ultimately what we're trying to do, trying to move the ball down the field, to stay with my theme, right? And so to stride in the right way, you got to execute. So these things that you build on the front end allow you to execute. It doesn't necessarily allow you to stay perfect. It doesn't allow you to walk without opposition or free of mishaps or setbacks or hardship. There's not going to be, Jesus says, take heart, I've overcome the world. You're going to experience trial in this life, okay? But take heart. He promises trial and tribulation. Take heart. James says, consider it joy when you have tribulation, right? We get it. We're going to expect it. That's what I talked about a minute ago. You got to just kind of be prepared for certain things to go haywire. Okay. You're not hoping they do. You're not looking for them. You're not expecting them to, but you're not surprised if they do. And so that execution, though, if you've done the work on the front end, allows your execution to seem a little smoother, to be a little more tightened up, to be leveled up, right? You are buttoned up with your policies, your procedures, your outcomes as a person internally in your family. That stuff's buttoned up. That's tight. You guys are set, okay? You guys are actually showing up the way you should. And that's because of your leadership, if you've done the work on the front end. So execution, right? You got to have the personnel in place, the right personnel to execute, of course. Every football team's got to have the right guys in the right places. You can't have the 300-pound guy out split wide to the left as a wide receiver running routes. Okay. You can't have the place kicker, running the football most likely. So that's got to have people lined up in the right position. And that's with your family. Okay. Even your friends, you've got to have a good knit group, tight knit group around you, but you got to trim fat too. Sometimes it doesn't mean all people are perfect fits for the system, for the scheme, right? You might have to let some relationships go. You might have to dig in and cultivate some others a little deeper, not be such a mile wide, but be more of a mile deep in certain relationships, because those are quality. Those are guys that are going to lock arms through the fire, through the lilies, whatever, good or bad times. But you got to get the right personnel in place. And sometimes that means cutting personnel, right? Professional teams, they got different cuts throughout the offseason. They cut down to a certain amount of people on the roster. You can only have a certain amount by a certain date. So you got to get rid of the people that aren't cutting the mustard, that don't fit the scheme or the system. Same with you. Get those people out of your life. You're not obligated to anybody. Your family too, you're obligated to. And if those people are toxic and contaminating and poisoning the well, you got to get them in a room and you got to get eye to eye and you got to have some hard conversations and tell some truth in love. Okay. But everybody's got to be on the same page. So personnel is important. Get the right people around you, get the people in your family on the same page, understanding the scheme, understanding the system and what we stand on. That's how we execute right there, because the beast actually runs itself. The machine actually propels itself down the field, even if there's adversity and opposition. Then the last one is adjustments. Under stride, you may have to make adjustments. Like I said, you may have to sidestep a few landmines here and there, but you got to be a little nimble. You got to be agile on your feet and understand when we have to move laterally and then move forward. So adjustments are part of the thing. Teams going at halftime make adjustments, right? Everything can be perfect with their scheme, with their system, personnel in place, game plan, X's and O's. Things are clicking. But every single team at halftime goes in and they make adjustments because we could always do something better. So I say make a place to check in with your family. Check in monthly. Check in quarterly. If things are going smooth, yeah, maybe it's quarterly. If things are a little bumpy and maybe it seems like we don't quite grasp the scheme all the way enough to execute consistently, maybe we got to check in monthly. I could be better at that. But I feel like we check in daily just because we're constantly having dialogue, communication. Maybe we're not on paper formally going down an outline, checking in, but we're checking in on different things with our kids. Big items, we're checking in on the big bullet points. Okay. And as other little things come up, of course, we have to make adjustments. We have to pivot. We have to kind of stick and move. And so that's it right there. Figure out how to make adjustments. I think teams that stick with the same game plan, the same personnel, the same X's and O's drawn up when it's not working, but they just, by goodness, we're going to stay with it out of pride, out of ego, and they still can't make progress down the field. Those are the people that have problems. The people that don't make adjustments when things are obvious that changes need to be made. Those are the people. When people make adjustments, those are the people that win. Those are the champions. That's the game plan of champions. If you're unwilling to make adjustments, then you're unwilling to change, and then you're ultimately destined to fail, or you're destined to stay the same at the very best. And that's not what anybody listening to this wants to do. Nobody's trying to stay the same. We're all trying to grow. We're all trying to move the ball down the field, move the chains enough times, and you eventually score. And you score enough times, you score more than your opponent, you win the game. So your enemy's coming at you. Spiritual enemy, natural enemy, work people that don't like you, friends that may hold a grudge, even distant family, extended family who's kind of out to get you or out to dog you and tarnish your relationship, whatever. Those people are coming. So get out in front of it. Get your things in order, get your house in order, get your family in order, get you in order, and do it with these 3 key elements of a winning season. I'll recap real quick for you. First one is system. Okay. That's your culture. That's your fortitude. That's your standards. That's your values. Scheme is number 2. Schematically, you got to be sound. You got to get the X's and O's down. You got to have it run itself. It's got to be repetitive. You got to do the right reps. Blocking and tackling, basic fundamentals. You got to get strategy, then you got to have contingencies. The last one is stride. Stride it out. Get that cadence, get that rhythm, build the momentum, moving down the field, execute with the right personnel, and make adjustments. Check in, understand what needs to be sharpened, what needs to be polished, and make adjustments. With that, be blessed.